Okay guys, today we're going to read Lester's Dreadful Sweaters by K.G. Campbell. And the reason why we're going to read this book is because we are going to look at how the author uses sensory language to provoke imagery in our minds. So do y'all know the 5 senses? Can you think of any? Jeffrey, do you know any?
I'll say 2. Touching, smelling.
See, hearing, taste.
Good. Okay, so here's an example of some sensory language. So for sound, if I say the word giggle, it's almost like you could close your eyes and hear the word giggle, and you would know what a giggle sounds like, right? Yeah. Okay, and for touch, if I said fuzzy, can you think of what something fuzzy would feel like?
Yep.
You can? Okay, and then sometimes there are sensory words that can be used for 2 different senses, such as burnt. Can you think of the 2 senses that you know whenever you hear the word burnt?
Smell
Feel.
and taste.
Yeah, taste and smell. Right, you can see that something's burnt. And then for sight, you know, you could, like a sweater. If a sweater has feathers all over it, then it's feathery, and you can see that. You can see the feathers. So, in Lester's Dreadful Sweaters, what do y'all think will happen? What can you predict will happen in this story?
The kid does not like his sweater and he gets picked on at school.
That's a good thought. Jeffrey, do you have anything to add to that? Do you think maybe he'll be at school, or maybe that's an office bag? What about the dog? You don't know anything? You can't make any predictions?
Chewed up his or her old sweater.
Maybe. Okay, so we're going to read, and if you come across any words that you don't remember or you don't understand, just remember to use your context clues and even look at the pictures to try and figure it out, okay? Okay, so Lester's Dreadful Sweaters by K.G. Campbell. Cousin Clara's cottage was consumed by a crocodile. Luckily, Cousin Clara wasn't in it. Upon hearing the news, Lester disapproved. Cottages, he muttered, aren't meant for munching. He added crocodiles to his list of suspicious stuff, starting with C. Then he checked that his socks were even and combed his hair. No one knew exactly whose Cousin Clara was, so she came to stay with Lester's family. She was little and frilly and came with a basket of knitting. I added crocodiles to my list, Lester assured her. At first, everything went well enough. Clara didn't make unsavory noises or rearrange Lester's lost and found collection. All she did was sit and knit, clickety-click, clickety-click. One morning she said, I made you a sweater, and Lester thought, how kind. Okay, so have y'all noticed any sensory language so far in the book?
When she was knitting, clickety-click, clickety-click.
Yes. What about the word unsavory? Do y'all know what unsavory means? No? Well, to me, when I hear the word unsavory, it's something that doesn't taste very good. That's how I think of it. But in the book, it's used a little different. Clara didn't make unsavory noises. So I guess it's something that we just don't like, right? But it can be used different ways. Until he saw it. It was shriveled yet saggy. It had holes where it shouldn't and none where it should. It was a less than pleasant yellow and smothered with purple pom-poms. It was dreadful. Okay, did y'all hear some sensory language?
Shriveled and saggy.
Yes. And that's kind of opposite, right? So maybe that's like a metaphor. Shriveled yet saggy. Say thank you, Lester, said Lester's mother. Thank you, whispered Lester. He'll wear it to school, said Lester's father. Lester's day did not go well. Mr. Twist didn't compliment his carefully combed hair, which he always did. and Enid Measles was a less than pleasant remark, or made a less than pleasant remark. Later, Lester's sweater was discovered in the laundry, all stringy and shrunken. What a mysterious accident, said Lester. Not to worry, said Cousin Clara, and she kept on knitting. Clickety-click, clickety-click. Okay, so let's make an inference. What do we think will happen?
I think Lester's gonna get tired of this sweater and he's gonna do something with it, or something's going to happen to it.
Yeah, now that Lester's sweater has been, shrunken and it's all stringy, you think that maybe...
She's probably gonna knit him a new one, and he's gonna keep doing the same thing until she runs out of thread.
I think so too. I think that they might end up making him another one. Okay, the next morning there was another sweater. This one covered bits. It shouldn't, and didn't cover bits. It should. It was an irksome pink and dotted with oddly placed upside-down pockets. It was ghastly. Don't you look handsome, said Lester's mother as she handed him his lunch. Lester's day went worse than the one before. Mr. Twist didn't notice his nicely knotted tie, which he always did. And Enid Measles said several irksome things. Later, Lester's sweater was discovered in the yard, shredded by the lawnmower. It's an inexplicable tragedy, said Lester. Never mind, said Cousin Clara, and still she knitted. Clickety-click, clickety-click. The next sweater was repulsively pumpkin, uncommonly crooked, and had a hideous hood. It unraveled in the rain and got washed down a drain. The next one was an awful olive and had an alarmingly large button. It was pecked to pieces by several outraged ostriches. Then there was the terribly turquoise one with several unexpected sleeves. It got stolen by ne'er-doers. It seemed that as far as she could knit them, Cousin Clara's creations were doomed to disaster. Look at all those arms.
What's a nerd?
A ne'er-doer. It's kind of like a thief. Someone that's just out hidden. Not really up in plain sight. I have curiously bad luck with sweaters, Lester explained. Luckily, said Cousin Clara, I'm a curiously speedy knitter. That night, long after bedtime, Lester could hear a frantic clickety-click, clickety-click. At dawn, he arose to a bone-chilling sight. In the parlor loomed a woolly mountain of cruel colors, appalling polka dots, frightening stripes, startling tassels, and things with 6 fingers. Oh no, wailed Lester. Enid Measles' party is today. Okay, so has there ever been a time when you felt anxious or upset and you felt like you couldn't do anything about it?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that time?
Well...
Maybe how did you resolve that?
Well, I felt bad because we had old shoes and we didn't have the money to buy new ones, so I taped them up to where they worked better.
That's how you resolved it.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
I felt bad because somebody that I knew clipped their dog's ears when he wasn't supposed to because the dogs were too young. And now the dogs are suffering and will be suffering for 2 weeks and we can't resolve it.
And it can't be resolved. Well, I think maybe Lester's going to find a solution. So, do y'all want to read and find out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They found him crouched amidst the remains of grimly dismembered garments. He clutched a large pair of scissors, and his hands were covered with red yarn. Lester's parents said some loud and angry stuff. Lester said he was sorry. Cousin Clara didn't say anything. She just smiled and held up another sweater. Lester arrived at Enid's, Mrs. Measles said, "You must be with the clowns." "I'm doomed," Lester explained, "to a life of dreadful sweaters." Lester disapproved of clowns. "Noses," he mumbled, "are not for honking." But the clowns liked Lester. "We love your sweater," they told him. "You don't think," gasped Lester, "that it's dreadful?" "The feathers and feet," said the clowns, "are so cute." "Could you," asked Lester, hopefully, "like your own?" "There are more?" shrieked the clowns. "By now," said Lester, "there should be tons. Follow me." On seeing Cousin Clara's freshly knitted collection, the clowns went nuts. "So stylish," they cried, "so fresh, so inspired." "Oh, stop," giggled Cousin Clara, knitting away, clickety-click. "We'll take them all," declared the head clown. "Can you make more?" Cousin Clara, Lester assured him, is a curiously speedy knitter. On the spot, Cousin Clara was offered a job, knitting for the whole troop. "Does your act," asked Cousin Clara, "involve crocodiles?" It didn't, but the position did include a fanciful caravan of Clara's very own. So she accepted the offer and packed up her knitting. "Won't you," asked the clowns, "miss your family?" "I'm not sure," said Cousin Clara, "if we're even related." After everyone was gone, Lester discovered a honking nose and a left-behind sweater. It was a gruesome hue of maroon and had itchy, ill-fitting bits with bells. Lester eyed the garbage can. But then he carefully cataloged both things and added them to the lost and found. "Just in case," he murmured, "I ever become a clown." The end. Okay, so the author used sensory language to provoke images. Thank you, Jeffrey. And those images were in our mind, right? It helped us understand and see really what the author was trying to say in this book. So tell your neighbor what sensory language is.
Sensory language is when they use words to describe certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jeffrey, you were telling me about a book the other day that had sensory language in it. Can you remember what that was called? We were watching a video about it. Don't you remember? I think it had Mr. Jones in it or something like that. John Jones or...
Oh, Skippy John Jones.
Skippy John Jones. Yeah, that book had some sensory language in it, right? And that was one of your favorite books in what, 3rd grade? Right. Okay, so now we got an idea of what sensory language is and why the author uses it. And in the future, next time that you're reading, I hope that you can think about these words and let them grab at your senses. And know that the author is using these purposefully so you can really understand his writing. Okay, thank you.